Hey, it's Monday, April 26th, 2021. This is episode 13 of the Depleted Key podcast. I'm Tarithal, and joined with me, as always, is Spooky.
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Had a pretty good week. How about you?
Oh, it was a crazy week. It was the fun Bolstering Necrotic Tyrannical week, which everyone loves. It's everyone's favorite week.
Yeah, I literally kind of dodged it all week, and I think I only did one key, and that was with you. Of course, it was above a 15, but uh, yeah, it was kind of a rough week for that. I know you did a lot of keys, though.
Yeah, I went nuts this week. So I've been leveling a boomkin that also weaves into bear. And and yeah, I got I think a little bit over 1400 IO on him this week from basically scratch. And
Okay.
so obviously I maxed out my vault. I have all 10 keys done for the week, and we even managed to get down to 17 sanguine depths. The bear was about 210 at the time. So feeling pretty accomplished for the week. I did that. Did a lot of demon hunter keys, a lot of tank keys, and honestly, if you're not a tank going into a bolstering necrotic week, it's really not too bad. It's basically comes down to how skilled your tank is. So honestly, not too bad. I actually enjoyed it. I even like tyrannical weeks. I know I'm kind of crazy there, but
From a healer point of view, bolstering is not the biggest deal to me. It's not really the mechanic I have to watch. Necrotic can be a little stressful because you sit there and you watch those stacks and you watch them just start stacking up and things. You try to, do what you can. But for me, it's always the tyrannical part of that gets hard as a healer.
Mhm.
My example this week was we did Spires of Ascension. It was like a 16.
Yeah.
And when we got to the second boss that drops those little puddles on the ground, whatever you want to call them, that shoot out the
black orbs.
the black orbs, the ghostly looking smoky things.
Mm-hmm.
That just made that fight so hard with the extra health on the boss that eventually the room just gets swamped. And my problem was I think we had a melee die with an early death at the beginning of the encounter. So we lost that battle res. We had the pride going into it. We also had lust, and it's like we started getting behind. People started getting hit. And it was one of those situations where I was having to like stare too hard at the bars because they're just, it chunks you for like 80%.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised we had trouble with that fight, honestly. It's the second boss of Spires, right? And that one is notorious for giving people issue, and up until this week, I really hadn't had any issue fighting that specific boss, but yeah, that one kicked our butt for some reason this week.
Probably the healer you had. And I'm not trashing myself. I'm just saying like druids in general. It's not like we can be a little spiky with our healing, but then it's not going to be that consistent,
Yeah, it just seemed like it took longer than usual. Like even on a Tyrannical week, I've done that boss on Tyrannical before, and it just went on and on and on. And I've limped through some kills on that, but I mean that took like twice as long as usual. So
I think one thing you should also factor in is you probably got some pally or something, maybe Disc Priest DPS as well.
Maybe
that you're not really getting as much out of the druid. I always try to keep like my dots up and things, but it's like once I'm having to focus so hard on healing, it's so hard because you have to swap forms, and you lose that global, and it's like when you want a DPS, you always have to go all in on it. And so I don't know, maybe I would definitely say that's probably a contributing factor. And I was having to focus and try to layer some hots to get people picked up quick, and then I was getting hit by stuff, and I definitely got tilted a little bit. Not too proud to admit it, but
yeah. The funny thing about this week was it's one of the notorious hard weeks that everyone hates, right? But I actually tried to go pretty hard and push some IO, and I even stepped into some pugs, which never happens. I basically never pug keys, but I've been playing with one of our friends that he has a 2K IO score on his main, but then he decided to switch characters. And so he's been like farming all this IO on his off character, and I've been watching him stream. And he's kind of got me like excited to push IO again because he just jumps into all these groups and does really well. And I'm like, I should probably try that, because I like to get up towards the 2K marker. I think if you add all my characters together, I'm probably close to 1750. I think if you were somehow able to add all my characters together, but that's
like
not
take the highest from each.
Yeah, because even my little bear has a key that my freaking demon hunter doesn't have at this point. That bear has cleared 17 sanguine, and I think my demon hunter has only done a 16, maybe even a 15. So
Chad Thunderpaws.
Yep. So
I know I was impressed because you sent me a text earlier in the week, and like in my head he was still just like a baby fresh bear.
he
And you're
still
like, oh,
is, yeah. I mean, really, he is. He's using this ghetto setup. I did get the blood scale this week, which was crazy lucky. I got it my very first time in the other side. We had like 3 or 4 people rolling for it for me, and I got it. And
nice.
so yeah, that's nice. But
I definitely noticed you doing a little bit of owl weaving too.
oh yeah.
It
100%.
caught me off guard because I'm like, wait, what? And and then I realized what was happening. I'm like, oh man, look at him go. Because we actually had another boomkin, but it was the wrong form. So I got confused for a second. I'm like, what is going on? What is that? And because my eyes will drift over to the bars and then back and look. Sometimes I don't catch things, and I'm like, oh, there he is. He's doing some owl weaving. Got it in.
Yeah, dude, it's insane playing bear. Like right now, it's probably my favorite thing to do. I really like the demon hunter still, but the bear is definitely on par with that because, especially this week with the necrotic, if you have incarn rolling, you literally can go to 100 stacks and not even care. I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing. I was getting to 100 stacks, and then I would like put either my cardborn assassins down, or like someone would give me trees, or else I use a typhoon. I hit iron bark, jump out of bear form into boomkin with the Heart of the Wild, and then just go freaking nuts with Convoke, and then pop back in, with 100 stacks of necrotic. You just feel freaking invincible.
Yeah, I noticed. I think in our run, as far as actual necrotic deaths, I think I only lost you one time in the entire thing.
Probably,
and,
yeah.
And it was less necrotic. Just I think overall the entire group kind of misplayed a situation, but yeah, it was the bear is just fun to heal. Because he kind of takes me back to like the old day. I mean, he's very simple to heal. There's no guesswork, like when he needs help, and it's so obvious. And so, I can ignore you for a good chunk of the run,
Oh yeah, no, a ton of fun this week with the keys. Got a nice chill priest key in. I jumped into a pug 15 TOP, and it was kind of nice because usually on my priest, I don't really like healing Mythic Plus too much. But I decided to go holy because the flash concentration legendary is so much fun. And I got into this group. It was a pre-made of 4 guys. I think they were all sitting at like 1560 IO plus. So they were pretty good, right? Right off the bat, all 4 of them. And it was just a 15 key. And the tank was super tanky. Demon Hunter tank. Didn't really even have to worry about him. And so I actually got to play the priest how I feel like every dungeon should go, right? Basically not have to just constantly worry about everyone, right? And the tank was doing his job, look at the numbers kind of thing. And we got to do some major overall damage. I was probably pushing towards, the 2K overall and Holy Priest, which is pretty good. And no, that was a super fun key. Just real chill.
More of just, maintain some atonements here and there and DPS. And
well, no atonements because I'm holy.
Oh, holy. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, okay. No, just keep your 5 stacks of your flash concentration going and throw out a random heal when you need to, but pretty much just DPS the entire time. So, yeah.
I noticed you've been really digging holy lately.
Yeah, it just feels.
Played it in raid.
I played Disc back when I call it like the glory days of Disc. Like people say, Disc does a lot of parsing right now, right? Disc is really good on parses, but the actual play style is not very enjoyable. If Mythic Plus, I would say it's more enjoyable. Spirit Shell itself is not real enjoyable. And trying to ramp up to it, and then getting something something interrupting you, and then you lose essentially a minute of healing. That playstyle is not fun. But Holy feels really good. I mean, it's reactive healing versus proactive healing, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I ended up on the Druid was BFA. I leveled up the Disc Priest and was trying to push some keys with another buddy of ours, and it just did not feel good. I'm not saying the class itself is bad. It didn't mesh with me. And I ended up, flipping over to the Druid. And we really started pushing Keystone Master for that last season hard once I swapped over. But yeah, I don't like it. It's, like you said, you got to be very proactive. And you got to know a lot, I think, about what's coming in, the incoming damage, and be ready for it kind of ahead of time.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the throughput. Like, if you do Mythic Plus as Disc, it actually feels really good. The Rapture feels really good, but you literally have to do 3 times the amount of work, to do something that one heal from a flash concentration heal will do. Like your flash concentration heal will heal someone for 20k, and then you use your instant heal and your Holy Word Serenity, and it'll do 30k, right? So you immediately hit someone for 50k, and that's a lot of smites and uh, and mind games and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely I don't know. It feels better. You have more throughput, but you definitely lose some overall damage compared to disc. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was very stressful for me to jump in on that last season because there was also like a lot of power creep already going on. People were already just flying through things
mm-hmm.
and starting a brand new character. I was chasing a lot of groups, and it wasn't fun for me, you know. But you've been playing this one since the beginning of this expansion, so
Well, yeah, it technically was actually the third or fourth character I leveled, and we just circumstance came around where the guild needed a disc priest, and I've known the guild. Well, at the time he was actually the GM, but since it has transitioned to someone else, but he still raid leads. I've known Thick, our co-raid lead, literally for a decade. So, and back when I used to heal with him, I was on a disc priest, and that's back when like atonement was smart healing, spirit shell worked completely differently, and no. Back then, I used to be a really exceptional disc priest. Now I just kind of consider myself like a passable. You know, I do things mostly correct, and it's good
oh
enough for kind of what we're doing.
that was your glory days of disc priest. I was thinking more like wrath, um, as the glory days myself, because
Okay.
I know when we were doing Old War and we were pushing this before they had what heroic, they had the hard modes they came out with for
Mm-hmm.
that raid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're trying to push through all of those, and we ran with two disc priests.
Okay.
And they had that super hefty bubble,
Yeah.
and penance was just like, you could top somebody off. I mean, damage was totally different back then. It was really
Mm-hmm.
spiky, and all your healers kind of reflected that.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved it. That's back when they had like the super reflective shield.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And go into arena, and somebody could just kill themselves beating on you.
Mm-hmm.
It was really great. And you also had like the mana burn and things, and that's actually what we used when we went to the arena server and competed in threes tournament. Was I think we had an arms warrior. It was a disc priest and a holy paladin, which I was a holy paladin. My brother was on the disc priest, and we had the arms warrior, which was Jimmy.
Yeah.
And the entire strategy was the disc priest was there to mana burn the other healer
Mm-hmm.
and off heal when necessary. But my brother would tunnel, and everybody would just be like 10% health, and he's still over there mana burning the healer down,
Yeah.
getting rid of all his mana. But yeah, fun times.
Yeah. I definitely used to enjoy the discipline healing style more than I do now. I think a lot of people just see the spirit shell being such a powerful cooldown, and they neglect the fun of the actual class itself. Like it's good to have, and it's kind of one of those essential classes to have, right? Just because it kind of eliminates a lot of the mythic mechanics, right? If any mythic mechanic is on a minute cooldown, like Sludge Fist, for example, you can reliably cover one of the important roars, or you can cover every pillar. It makes it trivializes some of the mechanics in raid, but the actual playstyle itself has definitely gone downhill since I really enjoyed it, which was almost like a decade ago at this point. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely when I could break out holy, I break out holy.
yeah. I've noticed that when we have you healing, which is we haven't done this together in quite a while,
Mm-hmm.
but it really does smooth out all that incoming damage that's
Mm-hmm.
coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and versus the times when you were sitting to let some other people play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it feels better to have that disc priest in the raid, but yeah, I can't speak for the fun of it because I bailed on that ship a long time ago.
Yeah, for sure. But speaking of rating, we had a pretty good rating week, didn't we?
We did. We killed council finally. I don't even know how many pulls we were into it,
Uh,
but
my bigwig said 106, but I did also tank one of the nights, and so I'm not
yeah,
sure if it counted everything on my tank or not. And but someone else, I think it was 4. He confirmed his also said 106, and I don't think he had missed a raid. So yeah, I
yeah,
think it took us 106 attempts.
which is still under the average,
Yeah, supposedly.
which made me
Yeah.
happy. But yeah, Tuesday you were tanking, so I think we had a completely different healer squad going on. Tuesday, it almost felt like we took a step backwards a little bit. We were getting to phase 3, very, very easily, I should say.
Hmm.
But it was like that last little bit where we just couldn't do it. Everybody was I don't know, we're kind of failing some mechanics. I was doing it too because it's such a long fight.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the things we got to Sludge Fist. We're like, oh my god, this is like a 5 minute fight. This
It's
is nice.
insane the difference between Sludge Fist and Council. Like, I don't know. Council is just draining. Like, yeah, it's just a pure stamina endurance fight because all of your wipes are essentially, or at least they should be, Nicholas, which is phase 3, 8 minutes into the fight is when you start actually having to worry about, doing things correctly and like trying to figure out the issues you're having. And yeah, I mean, you go 8 minutes into a fight and you wipe, and then you reset. You go 9 minutes into the fight, you wipe, you reset, try to figure out, things to fix it. And it was crazy. We raid till 11 p.m. Eastern and 10:30 would roll around. And we're like, man, we got to start speeding up our attempts because we're only going to have 2 or 3 more attempts. And that's crazy.
Yeah. And the hard part, I guess, is just not messing up the easy part of the fight,
Mm-hmm.
or falling asleep, kind of at the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
which I definitely did a few times. There were some of those pulls where, you're just in such a, like, Frida, or especially when we swapped over to the second boss, Stavros.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, always hardest part of the fight for me. That was always the hardest part because I would kind of fall asleep and kind of forget about my cooldowns. There were a few times where I just forgot to press the button, or we're doing that little movement to one of the different markers, and I
Yeah.
would accidentally clip my convoke or press the buttons out of order. But I'm not saying that was like a super common thing, but it's
No,
just
yeah,
like,
I'm sure everyone was. Yeah, I mean, it's a 10-minute fight. You're bound to make an error too, right? But
yeah, and I don't know, it was a stamina thing more than anything.
yeah.
But it was definitely a fun fight for me to boomkin on, and we'd been progressing on that for so long that like I kind of forgot how to heal a little bit when we got to Sludge Fist.
Yeah.
And but the actual kill itself came Thursday, and it came pretty quick in the night.
Yeah, it was.
And the kill itself was like super clean. I think we had like one person die. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we had one person die twice, and I'm pretty sure it was our Shadow Priest, but I'm pretty sure he was running. I don't know if it's a talent or a conduit or what it is exactly, but I'm pretty sure there's something that if something doesn't die in a certain amount of time, you die. And
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he was popping that on like the Stone Guard or something like that, and it just like timed out. But I could be wrong. Maybe that wasn't it.
well, it was funny because we were consistently getting to that last little phase, and it was, so much stuff coming at you all at once.
Mm-hmm.
The attendant coming out, which you have to prioritize. You've got waiters everywhere. We're trying to, focus the boss down, and you got the big gargle thing, the stone. Was it Stone
Yeah, the
General?
Stone
No,
Guard. Yeah, Stone Guard.
Stone Guard. Yeah. There's just a lot going on, and then you have the dance recital, and the Stone Guard knocks everybody every which way, and it was just always a mess. And then the kill, and we had plans in place to sacrifice people for the jumps and things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dancing, was it Dancing Fever?
Uh, yeah, Dancing Fever.
Okay, and we had we were kind of planning on Indiana Jonesing the kill, where we just kind of slide
Slide
under
through the door. Yeah.
barely, yeah. And then the kill happens, and everybody's alive, and it was so
Yeah.
smooth, and I was like, "What in the world?"
Yeah, I don't get that. Yeah, I mean, our strategy, even night one, I think we had the strategy down. Really, we weren't quite sure if we wanted to kill Gargoyle number 3, which happens in the last 50% Nicholas burn phase. But I think that's really the only thing we were a little indecisive about. And I guess we weren't quite sure if we should be AoEing down the waiters during that period or not. And so those were like our only 2 main questions. But yeah, I mean, we didn't really divert from the strategy all that much. It was just essentially optimization. And
Little tweaks here and there,
yeah,
tanks that run through the group here,
hmm
kite through here. It was little tweaks, and like I said, it's just hard because each tweak was due to a 10-minute fight. Not something that we could get in and get out and talk about real quick.
right.
And so, yeah, and we actually killed that pretty early in the night, and we went to Sludge Fist. And it was kind of funny because we went to Sludge Fist, and y'all called for a break because I don't think we were the entire raid was ready to
No, no.
start on a fresh boss at all. And so I went downstairs.
Yeah.
I'm heating up some food, and I'm just chowing down. And then I go back upstairs, sit down at the computer. And you guys were literally at the very end of your explanation of the fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh. I hope it's not too different from Heroic. And then I see, in chat, Thick's telling me to go heals. And I'm like, uh-oh, again. Because I haven't done that in a while. And so, yeah, we went in and, yeah, some of those mechanics kind of caught me off guard. First being the grip in group we had going on. Go with the druids. And the whole hunter thing to the different. It caught me off guard, and but it was so nice to be able to get in, and everything's like on nice like minute long timers, and it's like what 5 minutes total.
Yeah, dude, I like lost track of how long a minute actually is. Like, it feels like nothing, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
you do 1 minute, you hit a pillar. 1 minute, you do a pillar. 1 minute, you hit a pillar, right? But man, those minutes just like zip by. It's crazy how fast that fight actually feels. And I don't know if that's just because council was so long, but man, Sludgefist is a fast fight.
yeah, and it felt good, and I think everybody's was kind of still riding that high of killing council. But yeah, we got in there. We did some work on sludge, kind of figured out some things, and I think one of the biggest things we did was we kind of disseminated all the weak R's pretty quickly, and y'all made a call to let, I don't even know what it was called, but one of the weak R's to call the pull-in group, which I think eliminated a lot of thought on the raid's part, and especially y'all's part of having to make calls. So
yeah,
I think that's going to move it quicker.
Yeah, it's interesting because I keep a VOD of every single raid that we do, and I do typically actually go back and watch it. And for that night, I mean, we were basically just YOLOs, just straight YOLO. I had done the research a couple weeks ago, and at the time I had like a clear picture of exactly what I wanted, where I wanted all the healing cooldowns. And I went into our ERT add-on and I had mapped it all out, like essentially, what I wanted. And then actually come raid night, 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta like remember all of that. And so that's why we took like a little break. But yeah, I had already like thought through all the positioning and who should be doing what, and I had all the weak ores already gathered, and I had the raid note ready. But yeah, just collecting all those thoughts, and I'm like, man, we've got 2 hours. I don't expect for us to kill it tonight. Let's just go in there, see all the mechanics. I even went holy, which I'm not going to go holy for the fight. I'm going to be disc, but I'm like, let's just try to overheal this and get as far as we can. And yeah, we actually get to pillar 3, which was kind of surprising. I mean, I think we got to pillar 3 after maybe 5 attempts.
Yeah, the good news is everything is like super telegraphed in the fight, and I kind of went off my whatever I did in heroic, which is I would convoke on the first roar, which he knocks everybody back, and I would flourish off that, and then when he hit the first pillar, I was going ahead and hitting convoke because there's literally not much time in that fight where I can stand still and actually get a full trank off. And that's one of the few times I can actually do it.
Here's a question. I was going to ask you this because I was researching today, and this is kind of a personal conversation, but I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on this. So I was watching an actual druid kill it today in a 4 heal situation, and he was rocking Tree of Life. And can you trank on the run while you're in tree form? Or do you not know? You can? I think that might be the play, actually. So I saw,
and I can swap up to that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we just went in there completely YOLO, and like no one left the raid after we killed council, right? No one changed conduits and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I kind of just went in when he told me that I was healing, like right before the pull. I kind of just went with like my standard raid setup, and I haven't used Tree of Life like this entire tier.
Yeah,
especially on Mythic because I've been I only healed like the first couple fights and then went boomkin for several. I know I went boomkin for Sun King and Artificer on 1 kill, and I think I healed 1 Yellow Knight. We're just trying to get back to Council, and then I DPS Council. And so yeah, I haven't played with Tree of Life at all. I know when I first started reading Heroic, the other druid I ran with was running it at first, but then she dropped it as well. So
Yeah,
uh,
it seems like it just might be good on that fight because of how much you have to move, right? And I'm pretty sure while you're in Tree of Life, you can basically do everything on the move and it's instant. At least most of your abilities are.
I know the regrowths are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was tranking while standing in the first circle,
Mm-hmm.
and then like there'd be like just a smidge left on trank, and
Mm-hmm.
I would kind of just cancel that and jump into one of the puddle. The how it splits into two puddles.
Mm-hmm.
I would jump into whichever one was closer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I was YOLOing that. And so what happens is, um, Convoke and Flourish are up during, I think, what is, if I do it on the first roar, it's up for that really tough part. And I don't know if it's going to be a tough part once we kind of get more pulls into it, but between second and third pillar,
Mm-hmm.
um, it seems like we were just like way behind on healing at that point.
Yeah. So it looks like the proper pattern is roar number 1 and 2. I think most people use light healing cooldowns, right? So that'd be like your not your mana, your healing tides. Um, Probably like your wings, right? I consider that a healing cooldown, even though it's not like it's not Devo or something like that. So kind of roar.
Yeah.
So there's essentially like I think there's 2 roars before each pillar. So roar number 1, you use like a light healing cooldown. Roar number 2, you use a healing throughput cooldown, and so that would be like your tranquility or um, your I'm trying to think what other ones we would have there with our particular comp, but yeah, I mean, use your throughput cooldowns during that just to get people top back off, right? If you're a holy priest, up your salvation, your divine hymn, and then going into the actual pillar knockdown damage spike, that would be like your damage mitigation. So that's your Devo. Unfortunately, everything is physical damage, so I don't think AMZs even have any kind of impact in the fight whatsoever. And so,
Okay.
yeah, I think what most people try to do is they either spirit shell the roar before the pillar every single time, or else they do the pillar itself. I don't think it really matters which one you do, as long as you're doing like if you're doing the damage mitigation on the roar before you do your healing throughput on the pillar, and if you're doing your damage mitigation on the pillar, then you do your healing throughput before. And the way we
Yeah.
had our healing, the way we had our healing lined up is basically just every single pillar, right? We had something. So I think tomorrow I'm gonna have to go through the note and assign something to the roar before that, and that should hopefully clean some things up for us. But we'll see.
Yeah. So, um, the way, because Convoke's like what 2 minutes, so you get two roars, like every other roar, basically, is what you could get.
Yeah, that's probably what we'll end up doing. So it'd be like roar number 2 would be like convoke, right, and then the pillar would be spirit shell, and then before pillar 3 you'd convoke again, and then a spirit shell would follow, right? So that would kind of be the natural
I think that
order
would
of.
have really smoothed it out too.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I can't help you out in the mitigation department.
No,
Uh,
no, 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 no. Yeah, that's
I wish there was something, like I put up a giant tree and you stand underneath the branches or something. I don't know, something. Um, you can help out in that department, but yeah,
I,
all I can do is put out some hots.
yeah. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people throw a spirit shell on the melee actually during the chain pull because the roar always follows, and so you end up getting a lot of people if you do that. And so we'll probably end up doing some of those kind of things tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have some news to report on Sledgefist next week.
We, even though we were kind of yellowing it, we did kind of figure out just some stupid tips and tricks. I know for me, one thing was, the little falling rubbles coming down,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually your co-read lead. Him and I were linked together, and we both like stepped forward towards the boss, and immediately got roared
Into the
away
rubble.
from
Yeah,
back into the rubble and
yeah.
died. And
I
I was
died
like,
once to
oh
that.
my!
Yep.
I was like, just little things like that. I think you got to figure it out. So that yellow night was actually kind of fun to kind of get in there and get
Oh
some of
yeah.
those pieces out.
Yeah, and I had heard Limit Max kind of talk about Stone Legion generals. I've been watching his guide on that, trying to get a little bit ahead. But he was talking about that, and he's like, man, you gotta just lust when you can lust. Like, don't just hold it because some strat told you to lust. Like, just try to get as far into a fight as possible. And that's kind of what our Thursday was, right? It was just try to overheal the crap out of it. Just try to get as far as possible into the fight so people can see the mechanics and kind of like get a general understanding of the flow of the fight. And then, this week we'll go in and try to actually optimize it. So yeah, it was fun just kind of YOLOing in there and figuring out the mechanics. And honestly, it doesn't feel that hard.
No, I mean it's all rinse and repeat. So if you could do up to one, right, you should be kind of you've seen the entire fight at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I will say I think that with Sludge Fist,
Yeah.
I know we weren't really like worried too much about DPS, but you should be like what 20% per pillar ish if you want to like kill it right before the final.
Yeah, 20, probably 25. And I think having a Disc Priest will help with that a little bit. And Morobi, I don't even know if you knew this, but Morobi actually ended up going Venthyr.
Oh wow, yeah, I actually did that. Okay.
Yeah, finally.
So the story is we didn't have him as Venthyr for this Holy Paladin.
Yeah.
For council.
Yep.
And our two raid leaders were just constantly hounding this guy. Like,
everyone,
man.
It was the guild meme.
Yeah, they were memeing on him saying, if we had, a Venthyr Paladin, he would, this would be dead already.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual night that we went in to kill council, y'all told him you're going to delete his character or something, or kick him from guild, or all the above, or something like that. I was half paying attention to the memes, and we actually killed it. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I get to keep my paladin."
Yeah,
which I think it's like an OG original paladin that he's had forever.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah, the guild message of the day was council dies or else Morobi's deleting his paladin tonight.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and so yeah, that's kind of funny. He's Venthyr now. Okay,
he is. Yeah, so that's actually a pretty big healing cooldown. So that gets us, from what I understand, if he uses Ashen Hollow right off the bat with wings, that should almost carry us into the first pillar. At least all the melee should be covered healing wise. So that'll be nice.
Plus, can you explain Ashen Hollow to me real quick?
Yeah, so the way Ashen Hollow works is it's just giant circle on the ground, right? It's this giant red circle. Okay. And it does passive damage and it does passive healing. So the healing is super nice on top of the damage, because anyone standing within the red circle it'll essentially heal through a pride. It's that strong. And so if you drop Ashen, and you're healing pride in M+, just the hot from the Ashen itself will essentially carry you, in a 15-16 scenario. But on top of that, it makes it so you can use your hammer, which is your execute. You can use that the entire time Ashen is up, which Ashen lasts 30 seconds. And your hammer has like a 5 or 6 second cooldown, depending on your haste. It might even be lower. It might be 4 seconds if you have really high haste. But yeah, you essentially get to spam your hammer, which is your execute ability. So think like a warrior execute. You get to spam that every 4 seconds, every 5 seconds, and it's a guaranteed crit while you have Ashen Hollow down. And so it does massive damage. And on top of that, you weave in Shield Slam, you weave in, your Condemn, all those abilities get woven in that 4 or 5 second window. And it's essentially, it's Shield Slam, Hammer, Shield Slam, Condemn, Shield Slam, whatever it may be, right? So you essentially just weave in all of your abilities, and it just does a ton of damage. So it does like 15 or 16k burst, some maybe even higher. And then on top of that, it just does an insane amount of healing. It's just like all around just an insane cooldown. So very excited to see that.
What's the cooldown on that spell?
It's 4 minutes. So that's kind of the one downside. It's a 4-minute cooldown. So on Sludge Fist specifically, you pop it on the pole and then you pop it on Pillar 4.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of good, because I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like right now once we kind of go in there and optimize. But when we were kind of YOLOing, it was just we were starting to get like more and more behind. It felt like as the fight was going.
Well, that was watching the VOD. That was essentially people dying to the roar before the pillar, and then when the pillar would when the pillar would happen, we'd always lose 1 or 2 people because we didn't have the throughput. And so that's just some healing changes that we need to fix, and that's something that I think we didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to, because essentially after the last roar, immediately everyone wants to scoot over towards the pillar, but really healers have to spend that time kind of spot healing the lowest people up. And it's just one of those mental shifts that we're gonna have to learn. I'm a healer, so that's myself included, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this week for raiding. I think it's definitely going to be fun, and excited not to be on console. So
yeah, because I mean, I think one of the other like perks was you also had that repair. You can release and run back.
Mm-hmm.
And with council, I was literally about to download the the little safety feature that keeps you from releasing.
Oh, the weaker.
The child lock or whatever.
I think we all use it. There probably are some people that don't use it, but I think most of us use it.
I don't use it, but
Oh,
I
okay.
almost did just because of that fight
Mm-hmm.
and the run back. So it's just kind of nice, and it just feels like a more refreshing fight to me now that we're not
Mm-hmm.
in there for 10 minutes at a time. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much progress we're going to make this week because we kind of just YOLO'd, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to take near as long.
No, I don't think it'll take 110 pulls, but maybe it will. I mean, if anything, 110 pulls on council is literally half the time, right? So, or I'm sorry, on
Oh,
Sludge is half the time of council, so it'll feel faster regardless.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So,
But I mean, counting however many we did, just kind of messing around and memeing a little bit last Thursday too.
we probably did actually get quite a few more, or probably quite a few wipes in, like more than I'm thinking of. I don't know how many exactly we did, but yeah, we cut a chain pull. I mean, we're pretty good about that. Just getting back in, getting our food and just kind of doing it over again, right? Sometimes we pause for a second just to kind of talk about a concept or something, right? If we see something that's blatantly wrong, but for the most part, we're pretty productive in between pulls.
It was kind of funny because we were not doing food or anything at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were getting like past pillar two,
Yeah.
like three or four pulls in, or like, okay, I guess we
Yeah.
should start, popping food again.
That
So
was pretty funny. Our recovery lead, he's like, "Oh, guys, don't worry about eating food or anything like that. Until we make some decent progress on the boss." And then like 5 pulls later, we got to pillar 3. He's like, "Okay, everyone start eating food."
and 5 pulls later is not that long, so
No.
so yeah, it was kind of funny. But yeah, I think that one's going to be a much quicker fight. But like, I already kind of feel the shadow of like oppression ahead. That is Stone Legion generals.
Yeah, I've been doing my research on that. I don't think it's gonna be as bad as people think. Like I've already generally got an idea of the healing cooldowns, and I think a lot of the fight is gonna be coming down to dispelling correctly, and then just kind of almost needing to prioritize ads at certain points. But from what I understand, since the nerf has come out with the ads, you don't have to quite worry about micromanaging, exactly how they die, like you used to have to. And I guess it makes the fight a lot better. And so it's a lot of patience and getting people to hold off or push at like very exact times, which is going to be kind of complicated. But it's somewhat telegraphed in the sense that you learn a piece at a time, and it's repeatable. Where I don't think it used to be quite as repeatable, and now essentially you get mostly the same RNG throughout the entire fight. So
Well, I do appreciate your optimism,
yeah, I
but
mean I'm usually always optimistic. But
you're also the guy that could be 5 goals down in Rocket League, and you're like, oh, they're not that good. We got this, and we will lose, 8-0. But I always kind of hate those fights where you have to do the whole stop and try to time things right, because that's what we were kind of trying to do for a little bit on Council, was a
Mhm.
little bit of fine tuning on that, and then I want to say like at the end we just started just blowing things up as fast as we could.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, we held off for a couple key cooldowns, but yeah, for the most part, you're right.
Yeah, um, like the one part I think we held off on was trying to get that one stone guard to come down and get right there at the 50%, so we
Yeah,
could DPS him while dancing. And it was always kind of a sad moment when he gets frozen just a little too far forward, and I may be able to get like 2 dots off on him, and then he says, dance backwards. I'm like,
oh
oh
yeah.
man, and then I get out of range. But
Well,
but
the
yeah,
the main issue with that actually, and I think that's what led to our kill, is last week we were getting the second stone guard to spawn, but he would spawn while the boss was still at 60%, and so we'd have to rip through another 10% of that boss's health before we could freeze the second stone guard in place. And for whatever reason, and we had kind of reviewed the VOD, and Thick and I realized that's kind of what we were aiming to do, is get the stone guard down like right before the intermission, because as soon as the stone guard comes down, that's what resets the timer for the next stone guard, right? And so that
mhm.
additional 10 seconds, or the 10% rather, that we were ripping through in the boss was like 20 or 30 seconds wasted on the next stone guard timer going into the last 50% burn phase that we could just be burning on the boss, right? And
Yeah,
so I think that's essentially what ended up killing it. But we didn't really have to do anything to fix that. Like we were expecting to have to like really drill down and try to like optimize to, get that to happen, right? Where we would get that second gargoyle right before the intermission. And for whatever reason, it just kind of naturally happened this week. So
Our GPS, I think, was really on it when we got in there Thursday.
mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like, I felt like I was in the zone and I was, really doing all the right things. I always have that, like, that moment when I'm doing like, oh man, I pressed the wrong button. And I like one of those people, like when I'm DPSing, like every single second is valuable. Every single global cooldown is valuable
Mm-hmm.
because I'm trying to crank as much as possible. And if I like press the wrong button one time, I'm thinking about that one wrong button press for minutes afterwards, and it kind of throws me off. But like I don't know, I felt like Thursday, like I was on it. I feel like everybody else was on it,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have any of the wacky stuff happen Thursday either. Like the stone guard comes down or randomly smacks somebody,
Yeah,
or just things like that. So it was kind of a good kill though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, super excited about that. And I think everyone, like, as soon as we killed it, everyone just like felt this like weight fall off their shoulders, right?
Finally,
I know people have been pretty tense about it. Like you just have to focus for so long. Which I mean, we're beating a dead horse here, but yeah, you have to focus for so long. And the last 2 weeks after raids, we've been doing like one key after the raids. And one night we had like a 4% wipe, and that was like the last pull of the night, and then we did a key immediately afterwards. And dude, the key afterwards was so bad. Like I feel like people were just like PTSD after that fight because dude, it was such a hard key. Like it just felt so much harder than normal. But
yeah, I went and laid down, like in bed because I usually go to bed right after the raid. I just laid there after that 4% pull, and I just like sat there and I'm like, oh man, we were there, like one mistake away from just burning that and moving on to the next one.
I wish you had been there for the Artificer 0.000% wipe. the 8,000 health wipe that we had. Oh, I wish you had been there for that.
That was one button press. That would have been so depressing.
Yeah, I rolled around until like 2 a.m. I could not sleep just thinking about that. But
well, I mean, it goes to show that you guys really respect the cutoff time, because I feel like 99% of the raid leaders out there would have been like, "Come on, guys, we have to get one more," and people got worried the next day and things. So it's
yeah,
surprising that you guys. Well, not surprising. I guess I'm saying I'm proud that you guys cut it off and it stopped on that one, because I feel like everybody else would have been like, no, we have to go.
Yeah, for sure. But moving on, we have a couple more topics tonight. So it's kind of cool. There was a interview with Ian Hazakostic. I can't say that name right, but yeah, they did an interview with him on the Mythic scoring system that should be coming out in 9.1, and he kind of elaborated on some of the big topics that people have been curious about. And so there's a new scoring system that's going to be in game. So it's essentially like Radar IO being implemented within the game. And he kind of elaborated on some of the things people were, worried about. And it sounds like there's going to be a separate score for both Fortified and Tyrannical. And I'm not sure if like the two scores will be added into each other, to give you your grand score. But I think that's kind of cool.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it incentivizes you to, jump in to like the bolstering necrotic tyrannical weeks like we're having this week. It really, forces you in there. And I think since it's a separate score, I think people are going to be more willing to do it.
Yeah, it would definitely push someone like me, who I see tyrannical, and those are the weeks I just kind of get my one key and take a knee, and I'm like, nah, I don't need that this week. But if I have that incentive, it'd be kind of nice to get in there and get that push to get going.
Mm-hmm.
But
on top of that, they're thinking about reworking some of the less, melee friendly affixes, like your storming, your spiteful, because more than not, the affixes impact melee more than anyone else, right?
Yeah, because you're in there, you're close, and you had to be close to sustain some DPS. And it was almost a meme with our groups, where we're just, something happens, DPS drops dead or something like that. We're like, DPS, right? And or not DPS, melee, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and that's been around since, they brought in Mythic Plus for the first time. It's always been tough on melee classes,
Well,
which
even like non-affixes, some of them are nasty. Like some of the dungeons, just in general, like going through the last like little wing of mist before you get to the very last boss. If you have like 2 or 3 melee, you have to dodge so much more than when you don't. Like all the poisons and everything that knock you off, you know.
oh yeah,
All that
and,
stuff. It just adds up if you have too many melee.
and you got the stuff that'll spread from one person to another as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so and you got to spread out from that too. But they're trying to do their DPS, and then they may cleave the tank and things. It's just I don't know. It's always been more of a headache, versus the range who are out there and they have all the room in the world, sometimes. And so
Right.
I'm kind of curious what he means by reworking them.
Yeah,
I
I don't.
get worried when Blizzard says that. So
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they'll just swap them out with something else, which would actually kind of be a shame. I could care less about storming. They could get rid of storming. I don't think storming is fun at all. But I think Spiteful's kind of fun. Even though it can be challenging, I think it's fun.
it's more of group knowledge, in my opinion, because it's not a difficult thing.
Hmm.
It just a lot of groups will just stop and fight them and waste so much time.
Hmm.
And I've had runs where everything was going smooth, no wipes, everything's going good. But then you look at the timer, you're like, oh my goodness, where did all the time go? And it was just the group stopping and fighting all these
Yeah.
spitefuls along the way.
Well, that would be one of my biggest critiques. And obviously, season 2 Prideful is going to go away, but essentially not really having a window to skip the prides if multiple things are dying at the same time. Like you have to be especially coordinated to skip a pride during a Spiteful week. You have to essentially, if there's 2 ads up, you got to focus down the one ad, kill the Spiteful, and then you have to finish off the second ad, and then you have to pop your invis pot within like the 0.5 seconds you had before the Spiteful actually becomes active, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, just being able to do the pride skips and all that kind of stuff, really felt bad with Spiteful this time around, and I don't know.
Well,
I think they could do better with something like storming. I don't think that's particularly fun, but
one question I had is, did anybody ask him if you could lose score?
I don't think they did. They're saying they're going to model it after Raider IO. I can't imagine you could lose score. Although they did say it should be. They kind of have like this new system in mind where they even think they might rework Valor based off of, your Mythic Plus score rather than like KSM or something like that. You have more of like a PvP type bracket, right? You'd have a 2100 score. But I don't think it'll go down. I can't see why they would make it go down.
Well, going back to the Valor score, I think that'll make it more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, I mean, you get KSM and you can automatically upgrade to 220, which is super
Right.
easy.
Right.
And so, I mean, but you still got to grind out the stuff. And it was like, really, it was kind of worthless to my main, who by the time we got all that stuff, the 220 was, anyways,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
going in and grinding specific things. And so I think I got like 1 or 2 pieces out of it total that I use specifically for healing.
Yeah.
Just better optimizing because I had 226 pieces, but I think my boomkin is actually higher item level than my healer. Just for better stat weights.
It might be. Yeah, it might be.
Know?
Yeah, I've actually been. I kind of bashed the Valor system saying it wouldn't be all that useful, but really, in between gearing up my bear and then this week, kind of a funny story. I tried. I don't know why I tried it this week, but I went into a bunch of the other sides with our friend Lamali, who's working on his second character, and this guy Lamali, he's a 2K IO hunter, and he's been working on a mage, and so I've been jumping into random dungeons with him. But we did like 4 the other sides, right in a row, and we did 18 and 19 keys, and dude, I walked into a 19, and I got slapped by one single ad, slapped me, and I died, and which is kind of embarrassing actually because we had a bunch of pugs in there. And I've always thought I was a pretty good tank, and I see these big streamers go into, 24, 25 keys, and they're able to just tank stuff normally, right? And so I was almost kind of embarrassed that, a single ad was able to actually kill me as a tank. And so I ended up going through my stats and my spec and all that kind of stuff this week. And I realized I was actually running really low versatility for a tank. I think I was only running like 11 or 12%, which is insane. I didn't even realize that. And so I ended up using the Valor system this week and upgrading a bunch of pieces up to 220. And I think I have closer to maybe 16% now, which is still not really all that good, but it's a lot more than, than 11. So I ended up reworking some of those stats. And then I ended up switching from the Fell Devastation build to the Fiery Brand build. And doing these 18 and 19 keys is making me, form some really good habits, especially in a pug group where I can't really rely on someone dropping the trees for me or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I actually upgraded in between the last 2 or 3 days. I think I actually upgraded as a tank on my Demon Hunter. And now when I walk into a 19 key, I don't get one shot, so that's good.
Yeah. A similar kind of story happened with me where I was just kind of taking, with the vault each week, I was getting my 226,
Mm-hmm.
maxing that out each week, giving myself a couple of choices, and then taking, the highest item level and, in a slot that I needed it and running with that.
Right.
And so in my old guild, I was like ahead of everybody else in item level, and I was kind of carrying the hills for a little bit. But then, the other druid was kind of slow and steady with her gearing process.
Mm-hmm.
She had the same options, but she was choosing the better stat weights, and her haste got like around 22 or 23%.
Yeah.
And I was hovering at like 11%. And I had a lot of crit and like just dumb things. And so towards the end of our raid tier with that guild, she was just smoking me on fights.
Right.
And I couldn't catch up with her. There was one time where she died and she was dead for a bit. And I mean, maybe I think it was like Mythic Shriekwing or something.
Sure.
And we got her up, and I think she dropped her mouse and broke it and had to like put it back together. And this is Drexy, by the way.
Yeah, no.
And then she came back, and like I barely beat her.
Yeah.
Right. Like we were way ahead of everybody else, but like I barely beat her, and I was like, dang, okay, I gotta start, rethinking my my gear. And so that's when I started working on it. It's like now I'm like way above that. I'm like a 25% haste, I think, before buffs and things.
Mm.
And so now I'm getting more out of my hots, and getting more from each tick. I'm getting more ticks, I should say.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Which then gets more heals. So everything's just more valuable,
Yeah, that makes sense. And it really depends, like the character you play on, right? In raids does have more opportunities to get the stats that you want. And I know for a while there you swapped over to a mage, you're kind of messing around with a hunter, and in between doing all of that, right, you don't have all the time in the world to try to get the best stats you want. And for me specifically, my Demon Hunter has almost virtually never touched the raid, and so I've been kind of exclusively getting the M plus vault gear, so
yeah.
I do like the Valor system. I do like the Valor system now that I've used it a little bit.
Yeah, and so the whole 2100 Mythic Plus score, which would that be like the equivalent of like 2100 IO right now?
Yeah, so it's a little bit unclear. I think that's essentially what they're going for. If you have 2100 Mythic score, that should essentially be like 2100 IO, which if you get up to that, you'd be able to upgrade your gear to 226 in the current tier, right?
That seems pretty hefty. Do you think that's a fair breakpoint?
I do. I mean, 2100 in PvP is fairly difficult to obtain. Even good PvP players, sometimes they have to, pay a booster or something like that, right, to go from 1800 to 2100. And I think, 1800 right now would essentially be, I think all 18s and a couple 19s would get you close to 1800. It might even be like half 19s, half 18s would be 1800. And so to go up to 2100, I think you'd have to be essentially mostly all 20s, like all 19s and then maybe a couple 20s would get you close to 2100. And that's a pretty difficult thing to obtain.
That is pretty difficult. Because you have another aspect that you don't have in PvP is that you're getting different affixes each week, and it kind of sucks if you say you have a busy week at work or something like that, you don't have as much time to play on the good week.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of tough, but it's not unattainable.
No, I don't like that you're essentially capped on IO for during a bad week, right? I mean, I still went in this week and I got some IO on my Demon Hunter, but I would have had much easier time had I gone in last week and done the same keys or attempted the same keys. And so it kind of sucks in that aspect. And I do actually really like that there might be some sort of different scoring system for Fortified and Tyrannical. Maybe they'll get added together. I don't really understand that completely, but I think that's needed, to get people in and during the off weeks.
Do you think 2100 M plus score achieving that? How much gear do you think that person would still need?
Well, that's kind of the thing, right? But I mean, you can get your alts geared. So if anything.
Oh yeah, okay. I was not even thinking about account wide. Okay,
Yeah.
that does make more sense then.
For example, this week I got a blood scale on my little bear tank out of the other side, and immediately I was just able to upgrade it to 220. So that was cool.
That's nice.
I like that.
Yeah, and I wonder if they could do more of an account wide score, because you look at your characters and you got it spread out over 3. Some of your highest dungeons are all spread out. If you had an account wide score, that could also be something maybe really cool.
Yeah, I like being able to track individual character score, but it would be cool if there was some sort of like aggregate account score, like that would show separately, right? I think that would be beneficial. It doesn't mean a whole lot. It's more of an ego thing, right? But for me, it's I think my Demon Hunter is sitting at a little bit over 1600 now. I think it's like 1620 or so. But if I were to add all the extra stuff in, right, it'd bump me up quite a bit higher, right? And that's purely ego. But
yeah, but anytime that you and I have a leaderboard to like play with, it pushes us and gives us incentive to go harder. Play the game.
Sure.
In general, as long as you have that high scoreboard,
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my main character that I do M plus on is that Demon Hunter, and for whatever reason, I've been sitting on a 15 Plaguefall. I'm pushing 19s, 18s, 17s, but for whatever reason, I just never bothered to go back and Plaguefall, and so I finally sucked it up and I joined a pug today. And I tanked a random pug and I 2-chested a 16. So it's like there's still a lot of room to improve there, right? If you 2-chest a 16, you should be able to do probably an 18 or so. And so I might get back in there next week and try to maybe knock out some 18s. Maybe just get 18s across the board. I think that's my next goal.
Well, did you watch the MDI finals this past weekend?
I did, actually. I watched. Yeah, the games were kind of run away. I watched the very beginning, and then I think I was actually running keys during the middle, so I didn't pay too much attention. But yeah, I did actually watch the final.
It was Echo versus Perplexed, and Echo won.
Right.
And I don't think anybody was really surprised by what happened there with Echo taking it.
Yeah.
But
well, Perplex is a really good team. Actually, they're a very good team.
Yeah, I think they had one big mistake, and that kind of sealed the deal, right?
Yeah, well, I think they were losing games by literally seconds, and so they're still an exceptional team, and it's surprising to me because I don't really know those players too well. I think we were talking about that maybe in episode 2 ago, where we're talking about there's kind of like these high profile people on certain teams that you root for, but I don't think I really know any of the Perplex players specifically by name, but I know the team itself is exceptional.
Yeah, I know the name, but I couldn't tell you anybody. I could only probably tell you 2 people from Echo, actually, to be honest with you. One being now, because I really followed him when he was rating BFA at the very end with Limit. And then I kind of followed him a little bit more when he, this tier. And I actually subbed to him and got his UI because I liked how clean it was and how he kind of had everything laid out.
Yeah.
But no, I saw his I missed the finals, but then I saw the message come in on his Discord where he put it at everybody. And it was like cool. back to back to back to back. Yeah. I don't know how many it was, but yeah, they've won quite a few in a row there.
Yeah, I actually watched his stream this morning while I was working, and he was saying they were kind of hoping they would get a Theater of Pain because they had a strategy that they hadn't shown yet to the world. And I guess what you could do is you can send like a mage down to Gorechop.
Okay.
And you can have your group stand above where Gorechop's boss encounter is, like actually above him. And if you invis all the way through and then you pull Gorechop and then you ice block and you're standing right above him, when he does that pull-in mechanic, he'll actually pull your entire team through the floor. And you could fight him without doing any of the trash in the wing whatsoever. And that's super interesting. I never thought about that. Like that's actually very cool, and that would have been cool to see.
Gourd chop, that's the one that has the hooks.
Yeah. The hook boss. So
See, I never would have thought about going that way, and yeah, that's really cool.
yeah, well, you can just literally clip through the floor, like it clips you down, right? Because he does that pull-in mechanic.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you could just literally skip the entire floor. So it would have been interesting to see that, and then like see all the trash that they would have cleared to make up for everything they skipped. And so it's too bad that didn't end up happening. But yeah, they took it in a best of 3, and pretty good series. Still more looking forward to the big push, but yeah, I mean that was really good for them, and that's actually where like all the money in MDI is, right? So it's pretty cool to see them actually make some money for their effort.
Yeah, and yeah, that was the big thing they were talking about a couple weeks ago. Was it was almost like $15 an hour for Echo,
Yeah,
who's winning, you know?
right.
And so, you know, they were wondering like, do we keep doing this? Because is it worth our time and things? So I mean, I guess it's good for them that they won, but
Yeah,
uh,
I'm not exactly sure how much money they got, and it doesn't really matter. But I thought I saw something like 300K was up for grabs in the grand finals. And obviously that's not just
really,
for them, but I'm pretty sure the total prize pool for just the final tournament this weekend was 300K. So yeah, that makes the whole experience worth it, right? If you make it that far.
yeah. Do they get to stream their own streams as well?
No, not for MDI, but for the Great Push, they will be able to.
Okay, yeah. Has anything else been released about that?
Not really. So right now there's signups, and if you sign up, Blizzard will give you access to Tournament Realm, and you just go on one weekend, you do your trials. You might even be able to practice beforehand. I'm not really quite sure. If they give you access to Tournament Realm, I assume you could just log on and practice whenever. But yeah,
Yeah,
you get a weekend to prove your worth. If you make it, then essentially the following weekend or 2 weekends after that, you're able to go in, and I think you get 4 or 5 days maybe to push keys up. And so,
yeah. That might, in my opinion, be kind of the future of MDI
mhm,
because right now I, I really don't have that much of a desire to watch it as
mhm,
much as some of the other events. Like Race to World First is by far the biggest event in WoW,
right.
and it's all the players running it. It's like they do their own streams, they do their own like talk shows and
Mhm.
analysis and everything, and Blizzard just releases it.
Well,
Um,
they were talking about that in the Wowhead article. They said, it seems wrong that, you get the sinful gladiator for the top gladiator rank, and then you get, the Hall of Fame or the famed slayer of whichever particular boss, if you're really good at rating, and then if you're really good at M plus, you don't get anything, right? So
yeah,
they actually addressed that, and it seems like they're investing into M plus more, right? With this new system, and maybe that'll incentivize them to come out with dungeons more frequently. Who knows? But I'm definitely happy seeing them, at least address some of those issues.
yeah. I'm just hoping the next fix is something that's fun.
Yeah,
Um,
and they did talk about that too. So that was in the article. So apparently they're internally testing 3 different seasonal fixes right now. Only one of them will be released, but they're getting feedback on all 3, which is actually kind of interesting. We always thought, they essentially had one in mind, right? And that they're just kind of perfecting it or whatever. But
That's what I always would assumed is, that
right,
it's just more of like, fine tuning at this point. But the fact that there's three
yeah,
is pretty cool.
Y-
My biggest hope is that it's going to be something that allows you to kind of change up the dungeon, change up the routes, and keep it fresh. So we'll see.
yeah. I think they're getting some internal feedback, which who knows, how that goes. If there's a bias
Yeah.
within Blizzard, of what's considered quote unquote fun, right? You don't really know how skillful the internal testers are, but it it's kind of cool, the concept, though. I mean, maybe they'll take the 2 that don't work and they'll swap out the quote unquote less melee friendly affixes. Maybe they'll make a minor version of the seasonal fix and swap some things out next season.
Yeah. That could be pretty excuse me, pretty interesting.
Hmm.
But I know it's going to be jailer themed. And I really hope it's nothing to do with chains. So
Well, we're gonna get a lot of practice with chains this week on Mythic Sludge Fist. So.
yeah, it's already not fun when you get chained to somebody and they take one step too many.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. That's definitely not fun. I actually think the chain mechanic's kind of fun, and the fact that everyone's chained together.
It's cool. It was so frustrating when I was originally progressing because people were always just they just didn't get it. It's a very, you got a lot of personal responsibility with
Mm-hmm.
that. My raid group was super, super concerned about those freaking puddles on the ground,
Oh
which
yeah,
walking through it, the damage you take is, I mean, one rejuve
yeah.
out heals that damage, right? And so we would have people, trying to go over to Egypt and back, trying to avoid these puddles, and me and the other druid are just yelling at them like, no, 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 like just stay as a group. I can heal through that, but I cannot heal through a broken chain.
Yeah.
So I have some nightmares, some PTSD that I'm working through, but no, it was not bad stepping into the mythic version with this
No.
raid group. I got killed. I got killed one time by chains, and then I killed somebody else by chains. And when I got killed, it was like one of those situations where the circle comes out and you don't want to be standing on top of each other.
Right.
I had a Venn diagram, and I was like as shoved up into the Venn diagram as I could without crossing both of their circles.
Yeah.
And my chain partner was on the other side, and she just kind of like kept stepping and kept stepping. I'm like, hang on, hang on. And then she took one step too many, and we both died. And then another time, back when we were like trying to focus on the druids, the boomkins,
Mm-hmm.
y'all put marks above their heads. And no joke, I had a dumb moment where I got linked up with four, and I'm looking like left, looking right, like I'm looking everywhere trying to find like the red arrow, and it was legit behind the blue square above his head, right? And I
Yeah.
should have just
Yeah.
like clicked on his frame and like wild charged to him,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't. I was just like, I was looking left and right. Like by the time I had like the thought in my head that that's what I should do, boom, we snapped and died.
Yeah, I think
So,
we'll get it. The thing about I like about the fight is it's very intuitive, right? I mean, console, there's a lot going on, so it just kind of like overwhelms you. But this fight's like very straightforward, right? If you die, you know what you died to, right? And so
oh,
for
exactly.
that reason, I think this fight will go a lot faster. Yeah, it's gonna take pulls for people to get the timing of when to move, when to heal, all that kind of stuff down. But I think we'll pick it up pretty quickly, and yeah, looking forward to a fun week. And on top of that, we're moving from the bolstering necrotic tyrannical week into the fortified inspiring storming week, which I don't know. I think it'll be better. I don't particularly like storming, but I don't think it's all that impactful. Just don't bring melee forehead. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think inspiring is one of the hardest of fixes, and I think people sleep on that. So we'll see how it goes. I'll probably be avoiding TOP the best I can, but
Oh,
maybe even
well,
sanguine. We'll see.
literally last time that this exact rotation came up, we baited Drexy into a 15 key
Hmm.
of TOP.
Okay.
And I remember it became a bloodbath at one point. And we like missed the timer about like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
Uh,
they put the inspiring on really nasty mobs, like the ghost corridor where there's a stuff falling from the sky, right? But it's the ghosts that tether onto people. And typically what you do is you use your hard stops, right? So your dragon's breath, or your sigil's misery, or you push your knockbacks or your roars or whatever, just to hard stop them. With the inspiring going on, you can't do that, right? So
yeah.
that's a nasty pull. There's a couple of ads in the plague wing that have inspiring, and so you can't kick the withering discharge, and so you just kind of have to assume that's going to happen, unless you CC and pull everything away. But then that just slows down the dungeon. So there's definitely some obstacles to go through, and then you
Yeah.
go.
I remember
Yeah, go ahead.
for us, it was definitely the plague wing that got us um, that week. And I had like that week right there gave me respect for inspiring
Hmm.
because I think I was kind of sleeping on it up to that point.
Yeah, there's also the platform pull. So there's the I think it's a sorcerer that does the volley, and then there's the guy
Yeah.
that does a spike, and then there's one of the elementals behind that pulses the AOE. That 3-pack. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
one of those is inspiring too. Which I think all you have to do for that is obviously CC the one that's inspired, but I think basically the other mechanic goes through regardless, right? But at least you only deal with one, right? Either the volley or the spike instead of both of them at the same time. But yeah, there's definitely some nasty synergies in there that makes that overly difficult for the week.
Yeah. I'll definitely avoid that one this week. But overall, it'll be nice to not have that tyrannical boss health because you just get so many more mechanics, and just the way those fights are designed, I feel like Tyrannical just makes it more painful overall.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm going in this week and downing one of those 18 or 19 the other sides. I'm sick of fighting that, and we did have one this week. We had a really good, actually. We had, I think it was 4/5 guild group, and then it was a friend of one of our guildies. We went into an 18 and actually only missed it by about 30 seconds. So we had a really close attempt this week on Tyrannical, and I'm looking forward to going in there and just finally getting that key down. So screw Hakar, screw the not Artificer, but whatever that third boss is called with the lightning. Dude, that boss is just insane on Tyrannical. It takes forever, and everything just hits insanely hard.
And you've got the lightning passing around.
Yep, I did actually.
As well.
I did actually download a really good download a week or for that this week. I had never actually been tracking it until I got to the point where, like in the 18 and 19 keys, where you have to pay attention to that lightning, or else you just cannot do the fight. And actually, I've got a good week or to share with you this week on that.
I'll definitely have to try it out.
Yeah, but other than that, you have anything else you want to shout out, or?
Yeah, definitely go check out the YouTube channel. From there, you can find the Discord link where you can come and talk to us directly.
Have a great week.
See you later.